Hello everyone, I'm Sue Jankowski. We are at PHTV4 and we're talking about pet care. Today we're going to talk about what you do prior to adopting a pet, what's need to be done to make sure your pet is healthy and safe when he comes home. To take a look at this topic today, we have Dr. Rachel Thomas. Thank you, Dr. Rachel Thomas, for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
She comes to us from Palos Animal Hospital, which is right on Harlem Avenue in Palos Heights. We also have Jennifer Fischer. Jennifer,
Hi.
Thanks for coming in. She is the president of Traveling Tales Dog Rescue, which is a volunteer dog rescue organization, and a resident of Palos Heights, and a German teacher. You know, you got a wide variety of things you do there. So thanks for coming in, Jen.
Thanks for having me.
So I think when we think about getting a pet, we might have something in mind, but I think it's good to evaluate what kind of pet, what type of dog, cat, and there's so many other pets besides dogs and cats that you might want to think about. And we're going to talk about that today. So how do we get ready? There's a lot of expense involved, and not just initially, through their lifetime. You have to think about that, and a lot of other things. So let's talk about those things. This is someone new in your household. It's another really person. If you really value and love your pet, it's just like another little person in your house. So you want to make a good choice when you're choosing your pet. How do we do that? What do we consider? What factors should we be thinking of when we're adopting a pet? Dr. Rachel, what do you think?
So the first, the kind of easy answer is everything that you need to consider. So what is your family like? Are you somebody who is single living on your own, or do you have a significant other that can help take some of the responsibility? Do you have children around? Are there limitations in this? Or does anybody have an allergy to certain things that we need to be aware of? Is there a dander allergy? Is there a feather allergy? What kind of home do we have? Do we have a home that we have lots of space that we're going to be able to easily fit? If we're considering a cat, litter boxes, the recommendation is that you want at least one more litter box than you have number of cats in the home. So even if you're bringing in your first cat, you should have 2 litter boxes for them. Do we have a way to navigate that? And if not, how can we make a plan to navigate that and get them what they need there? If you have a dog, what kind of space do we have? Do we have a house that can easily house a large breed dog, or do we have a house that's going to be better for a smaller dog? Do we have a yard that's available that we're going to be able to play ball in, or are we going to need to find a way to be able to get that pet out? Do we need to get a pet sitter involved to help take the dog out in the middle of the day? And then this seems like it might be something that is really intuitive, but do you already have another pet? If you do, is this going to be a dog who gets along with other dogs? Is this going to be an animal that gets along with other animals? All things that we need to consider, and maybe doing some temperament testing before we bring in another person or another animal into the house. Jen can probably talk to some of the screening that they do with Traveling Tales.
Yeah, so basically what we do when we're looking for the perfect adopter for a pet is we ask questions like, okay, how many hours a day are you gone? Something good to consider, because are you gone, 8 to 10 hours a day, or are you just gone a few hours a day? And where's that dog going to be when you're gone? Are you going to crate it? Is it going to be free roaming? Are you going to work towards free roaming at some point? It depends on the age of the dog as well, because what if it's a puppy? Can you leave this dog for 10 hours a day by itself? Probably not. You may have to consider getting a dog walker or someone to pop in and let the dog out. So you have to consider all that. You have to consider things like, where is the dog going to sleep at night? Do you want the dog to sleep like in your room, in a dog bed, maybe in a crate initially while it's potty training, then it's going to be free roaming? The exercise factor, like you were saying, it's very important. What is your plan for exercising this dog? Unless it's, a senior that's going to sit on the couch all the time, they all need exercise. So do you have a fenced yard? If not, do you have a dog park nearby, or do you have like the ability to walk it a couple times a day? Things like that.
Those are all really good things to think about, and I think sometimes we get so excited about getting a pet, we don't even consider all the things that you just mentioned. Those are not really things that we think about. Okay, so once you figure out, that's the thing too, are we thinking about a dog, a cat, a bird, a bunny, a lizard, a turtle? I mean, there's just, endless things that are good for Some people, not good for others. I think children is a huge factor that we have to think about, you know, and the age of the children. Everybody wants to, I shouldn't say everybody, because everybody doesn't, but most people think a pet would be nice for children to grow up with. But you have to make sure that your children are the right age, and that, or maybe you had a pet before you had children, and that pet can deal with the children as they grow. Okay, so once we determine we're going to get a dog right now. So what do we do next? Now, I know that we have a lot of options, and Jen, I know your option with a rescue type of thing is primarily what you're recommending to people, which is wonderful. So if they were going to like go to a rescue, yours or someone else's, what would they look for? What would they do? And what would they find there?
Well, within the rescue world, you can find actually all kinds of dogs. Over the years, we've had purebred dogs that are surrendered, you know, locally for whatever reason. Maybe somebody passed or somebody had to move, couldn't take a dog with or whatever. So sometimes we do have actually close to purebred dogs occasionally. We have done some like puppy mill rescuing, so we've had some breeds. Most of our dogs, truth be told, will definitely be mixes, you know, will be mutts. There's dogs all over this country that need rescuing, you know, shelters everywhere that need rescuing. So there's definitely an overpopulation problem, you know, with dogs and cats for that matter, and they can all, you know, use a home. So there's everything. You can find everything and anything, honestly. You really can.
Okay, so they go to their local rescue, and what should they be looking for? I mean, they've thought about, we want a big, small dog, whatever they want. When they're looking for that pet, what should they be looking for? And what could they hope to find as far as health records? You mentioned that they, they're really checked out earlier. And what could they find there that would make them feel like this is a good choice for our family?
Well, sometimes, you know, there's puppies and things like that, which have more of a clean slate, so to say, you know, like the younger dogs. Some of the older dogs, you know, they might have gone through some kind of trauma, you know, in their journey of being rescued. So that's definitely something to consider, because if you're not up for the challenge of taking on, you know, a potential, you know, rescue dog that may have some issues, that's something to consider for sure. I mean, issues, okay, what are issues? Sometimes it's things like the dog's afraid. You know, maybe it's been passed on from home to home to home and it just needs time to settle in. You know, sometimes it's a larger issue. It could be like some, you know, fear aggression or potty training issues from whatever, you know, there's different things. So you definitely would want to educate yourself and find out, you know, a little bit more about that dog's history if you can, and then see if you're a good fit for that dog. I mean, there's some adopters out there that are just amazing that want to take on a certain dog with various issues, and it's like a match made in heaven, you know. So you just have to kind of see what you're willing to handle. Not that all rescue dogs have issues, but I mean, a lot of these dogs have a history, so you just need to kind of be aware of what they've been through and see if you're the right fit for that dog, really.
I think you want to be relatively sure. I mean, you never really know until you get the dog home, but you want to be relatively sure so that dog does not, you know, get backed up and back to the shelter because it was, you know, more than you could handle. But I think in adopting any pet, there is some breaking in of you and the dog or cat, getting used to things. What do they eat? How often do they need to go out? It's a new member of the family, so you have to find that out. And some of these pets really just need a lot of TLC. And, you know, by giving them love, you're going to find that they are a great pet. So does a person coming in to adopt from a shelter have to pass some sort of test, fill out forms? Is there a background check? I mean, how do you go about doing this?
I would say yes. Most places that I know, even like fellow rescues around, we all have a screening process. So basically, you know, you have to fill an application out, has questions, you know, like how long you're going to be gone every day, you know, how long you're going to crate this animal or not, you know, exercise, things like that. Then we also do reference checks. So we check a personal reference just to see what other people would think about these people as a dog owner. We also do like a vet reference check, which personally we find that to be even more important than even the vet reference check is more important than the personal reference check, because you really get a feel from that, you know, how well are these people caring for their pets they have now? You know, are they up to date on vaccines? are they giving this dog preventatives, you know, for heartworm and flea tick and things like that. It really shows you, are these people going the extra mile for this animal, or it's just like, hey, I've got this dog and I'm not caring for it already, you know? So that's important. And then we also do a video home visit. So just to kind of see, like, is this a safe environment? You know, are the things that are on the application, are we seeing the same thing in this home visit? Are they telling us the truth? You know, things like that. Just to get a feel for the home, if it's safe, we do a video home visit.
Right, you want to make sure that that pet has a good home, and that's great. Okay, Dr. Rachel, let's talk about going to a breeder. So that, you know, you're not going to a rescue. That's not for you. You want something specific. What should people look for with breeders? We hear a lot of horror stories, and we wouldn't want to get involved in that. So how do we find a good breeder?
Sure, that's a really great question, and that's something that is a really big plague for a lot of people who are looking to get a specific kind of dog. Is, I know that this is what I think would fit for my family, but how do I go about finding somebody who's responsibly breeding these dogs? There are a lot of horror stories out there, and there are breeders who are doing a really good job out there as well. So first step is going to be contacting your veterinarian to see if they have a relationship with any breeders that they know of in the area, who they know is doing the appropriate health screening before these dogs are being bred. If you do find a breeder that you're interested in, you know, make sure that this, some of the things that we can ask them to do to make sure that they're a good breeder would let you come and meet the dogs that they're breeding and tour their facilities to see how are the dogs being kept. Is this an odorless kennel? Do they have run? How are they exercising their dogs? How frequently are these dogs being bred? Are they being overbred? Will they let you meet the puppies before you adopt one? So that way you can see if there's a puppy that you bond with. Some breeders may not have a litter that is currently ready, but they may say, put you on a wait list and say when the next litter is born, you can come and meet and see if there's one that you want to meet and greet with. Again, I mentioned that there are health screenings that they can do, and is this breeder making those? If they have a specific breed, we do know that certain breeds are predisposed to certain issues. Are they taking the steps to try to mitigate that in the dogs that they're breeding so that way they're not propagating these issues and making dogs who are being set up to have a health issue there? Those are things that we take into account, and your veterinarian could also help guide you during these situations. And like Jen had said, there are rescues who do get purebred dogs for a reason, one or another. And so checking your local rescues, because maybe there was, as she said, an unfortunate passing in the family and somebody couldn't take the slightly older dog who you might not get a puppy, but this is a breed that you know. This would then be an adult dog that you know, and then you're giving someone who lost their home a chance at a new home.
And that is really a great thing, and I know sometimes that does happen and families can't take care of it, so they have to, you know, give up that dog or cat, and they hope that someone loving takes it, and there's nothing wrong with the pet at all. They just need a home, so that's a great thing to do too. Okay, so we've done our homework, we've decided whether or not we're going to go to a shelter or a breeder, we've done our homework. So now we've got the pet, or we're about to get the pet. What do we do for our home to get ready?
Great question. So there is a lot that goes into this. So making sure that you have the equipment to handle the dog. This might seem silly to say, but get the crate ahead of time. Don't wait till you have the dog to say, oh, I need a crate. It's kind of like, you know, preparing to have a human child. You know, there are steps that you take and there are books that you can read. You can prepare to have a new puppy, a new cat, a new critter, any critter, pick your critter of choice there. And so getting their home area set up, trying to make it so that way it'll be comfortable for them when they come in. Sometimes if the animal has a item with them, some facilities will let you take that item so that way they have something familiar, so that way they could have a familiar smell with them. And then puppy proofing and animal proofing the home is also important, making sure that we get all of the cords up off the floor, all medications are up, coffee tables that are low that some of our critters who are a little bit more mischievous can jump onto or get to, don't have anything on there that's dangerous, making sure medications are put away, making sure that any kind of food items are put away. Jen, do you have anything to add as far as?
I was thinking, like with puppies, making sure you have like some chew toys and things, because puppies sometimes they'll start eating your hands and your arms and everything, and people are so afraid. And it's like, just, you know, get some chew toys, some little, you know, bones and things they can chew instead, you know, redirect that behavior. And also I would recommend having the food, the food that the dog had eaten before, whether it was, with the breeder or, with another shelter or something, getting a little sample of that food so you can transition the dog onto like whatever food you're going to give it, because if you don't do that, they tend to have upset stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing, like transition the food. And also, that's another good reason to talk to your vet, because there are all kinds of pet food available. Some is better than others, and you want to feed your pet the best that you can, because that takes care of a lot of the health of your pet. So just getting some information ahead of time, I think, is good. And I can picture, you're so excited about getting the pet that you're going home and you're like, oh, well, we don't have food and we don't have a dog dish and we don't, because you're just so happy of that moment of getting your pet. So yeah, think about it ahead of time. If it's a family and you have children, that's a great activity to do together to prepare for that pet. I think that's great advice. Is there anything else? I know we're taking care of the house, we're getting the pet and food and everything ready, and deciding where that pet will be. I know having a puppy can be a little challenging at times because they're so cuddly and cute, and they're also tons of work. So I think that people do need to get ready, like read a book, or talk to somebody about caring for that that puppy.
You can always reach out to your local veterinarian. If you have a relationship with the veterinarian already, you can contact them and say, hey, this is the situation. We're thinking about adding this family member. How should we go about doing this? Do you have advice on how to introduce, if you have another animal in the home, how should we go about introducing them? What steps do we need to take? And if you don't have a veterinarian, you can call to get established with one and see if you can chat with somebody about, I want to form a relationship when helping to get your help in caring for my pet. What things should I know now, and can I schedule an appointment so that way when I do have my new pet, I can bring them in to get checked out and we can talk about some of these things in more detail.
And you would want to do that relatively quickly, right? After you get your new pet, wherever it comes from, you want to get into your local veterinarian that you've chosen and get the clean bill of health from them and get their advice.
Absolutely, you do. The sooner the better, generally speaking, because then we can go ahead and start getting them on an appropriate plan. Shelters and breeders both will a lot of times have vaccination protocols, but when you have, kind of focusing in on young animals, because we've been mentioning puppies and kittens, they have vaccines that they need to get, and so they need to get these in a prescribed way. And so if your breeder or your shelter or rescue that you adopted from has those records, make sure that you bring them to your vet appointment so that way we can see when was the last time that a vaccine was given and when are they due for their next one, so that way we can make sure that they're appropriately covered on all of their shots there. And then getting them started on their preventative that they would need, talking about any kind of concerns that we may have. There are some problems that young animals can have, and so if they have any kind of intestinal parasites or any issues with their ears, any kind of health things that we're worried about, we can talk about those things during that first initial appointment and help get you guys set up to take care of them.
That sounds like great advice, and that will help you and your family have a healthy pet and a good start. Jen, how do people get a hold if they want to adopt a pet from Traveling Tales Dog Rescue? What should they do to do that?
They can contact us via our website, which is www.ttdr.org, and they can message us on Facebook, either one. I just wanted to add one thing about the pets. Don't give up. It takes time for them to settle in. We always talk about the rule of 3, 3. So 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. It takes them time to settle, and I would say anticipate having a little bit of a roller coaster at the beginning, because sometimes you think, oh, it's going to be so easy, and then it's like, oh, the dog's having an accident here and there, and my puppy's shredding the puppy pads, or whatever. So just hang in there. It will get better.
Yeah,
the dogs will adjust.
Nobody is perfect, and there is a learning curve with this, and it is okay to make mistakes. Everybody does. No one is perfect. And applying that and remembering that and giving this new animal some grace as they go through a really big life change, and they're learning how to be a part of the home just like you're learning to have them in their home. And so that way they can have good amount of time to really settle in and show how great of an animal they can be.
That's great advice that you have both given us as pet owners or future pet owners. Just give them a little grace, give them a little time. You could have the best pet ever, and you probably will, and you'll love them to bits. And there's nothing that is, so wonderful as having a pet in your home. I feel like I know not everybody can do that, but if you can, and if you can rescue a pet, that's a great feeling and a great way to get your pet. Thank you again, Dr. Rachel, Thomas, and Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming in today and talking to us about pets. And thanks for watching us, and we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.